Hey, group leaders, welcome back to the Group Leader Podcast. I'm back again with my friend Glenn Underhill, smiling as always. Burr, burr, burr. Like we need some noise right there, you know.
Kind of a lead-in, have my walk-up song or something,
yes.
right?
What would be your walk-in song? Since you just said that.
That's a great question. Man, I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe Nobody But Jesus. I love that song from Casting Crown. Have you heard that song?
Can you sing a line?
I can't because it would be too embarrassing. And I'm afraid that some of the group
It's gonna
leaders
get out there.
might, yeah,
Yep.
might
They're gonna be like,
show that to somebody.
listen to Glenn.
That's right.
Don't let him try out for worship team.
That's exactly right. So I'll hold my cards close. But
Okay.
I do like that song.
I love it. I always try to think like what would be my walkout song. I don't know. I feel like I'd be going back to like pre-cross days.
Yep.
For like some AC/DC or Metallica or a group leader maybe like, that's my favorite band.
Yeah, that's
and
exactly
I'm not
right.
questioning your salvation. I'm just saying that, you know, some of those songs are not the most holiest of all.
Well, you know, if we were talking on the secular side of things, there's a great, one of my favorite movies is Here Comes the Boom. And I love that song. Here Comes the Boom.
Yes.
Yep.
Ready or not. That song to me, every time I hear that song, I'm just like, oh, I'm fired up, man. Like I'm ready to roll.
Yeah. Or Eye of the Tiger. Eye of the Tiger. So
That one to me is like, it's great, but it's got it's a little too mellow. Like it kind of just fades out. But like Here Comes the Boom's got some really good punches.
Yeah.
That I feel like, I'm amped up now.
Yeah.
I'm ready to
go.
roll.
Ready to go.
All right. Well, we're here, leaders, and we're talking about how to grow new groups. So we've kind of been rolling through how to grow your people, how to grow your group, how to grow your leadership. And then really the byproduct of this is you're launching a new group. Right. And what does that look like? What are the blessings of starting a new group? Yes, there are blessings, right? We're always like, don't split my group, you know. Some of you may even just remember times I'll walk into your group and there's like 40 people and they're like, don't you think about it, right?
Right.
And we feel that. So we want to talk about that a little bit and have some fun with it. And maybe we can start off with this question, Glenn, of just why are we so resistant to multiplication? I mean, I am too. Like if I'm in a group, I'm going, oh man, this hurts.
Right.
So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think some of it can feel like, hey, it's a fracture of relationship. You know, hey, am I going to see these people again? And we've got such a great thing going in our friendships and the things we were able to accomplish. I mean, and those are all really very real and valid feelings, right? I think that, and I think that it feels disruptive in a world where everything already feels incredibly disruptive, changing.
Yeah.
And this really strikes me because one time I was many years ago when I was doing groups, I was with a group and we were talking through this, and someone just said, Glenn, not opposed to change, but it's so hard, especially in church, because when everything else is unstable, I look to my church to be the one area that there's a lot of stability and no change. And I know it's what we should do, but I just would like it if we didn't have to. And I get it. I mean, it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
But, I think that's probably some of those reasons. Disruption, change, friendship. Hey, if we do this, our group's won't be the same as it was before, right? So I think those are probably the bigger ones.
Yeah. It's so real. Like when your relationships, they're getting shifted around, like you talk about, the world is in constant change. And even we could even probably go back and say even from 2020, like everything just feels to be kind of disorienting. So when you come to church, you want everything to be the same, just as I left it. I don't want anything to really change up. And I think there's something good to say there, to say that when you are multiplying a group, it's okay to feel a little bit of grief over that and to grieve the process of going, we're sending people out and things are going to look different now.
Yeah. And I think this, and let me again, these are very valid, and it isn't wrong necessarily to feel these ways, right? To have these emotions. I also think that, again, we talk so much about the importance of being in biblical community. And when a group really is experiencing that, and then it's this idea of, hey, we need to multiply. Oh, it's like you are telling us one thing. We feel like you're saying one thing and yet doing something else. And man, I get it. And it's so hard. And there's just a lot of emotion and a lot of things we have to walk out with that. And that and again, like I said, it's valid and real. And I feel it even for groups as we're walking through it, because we feel that deeply, and not maybe as deeply as the group does, but we know that it is hard.
Yeah. So when we think about multiplication, I think everyone's always like, when do we know? Like, how do we, is the writing on the walls? Is it time to go?
Every time Cameron shows up, that's when we know, right?
Yeah, when our group is thriving and Cameron shows up with a big old smile and a coffee cup in his hand, we already know it's time to multiply. But I know there's some things like the size of the group, but maybe what are some of the things, because I think the size of the group is such an easy one to go, our group is bigger than the room. Right. So let's talk about some ways that we could determine a group's ready to multiply, maybe in ways that leaders haven't seen it. Like, tell me some of those.
Yeah. So obviously, size has a big piece of that. And here's reason why size matters, because there is a certain point that people, new people, have a harder time assimilating into a group, not only in length of time, but in size of group. And again, there's nothing wrong with having. You're probably going to have people in your group are going to have closer relationships with other pockets of people in those groups, but it becomes much easier when that group grows a little bit larger for those pockets to kind of really, kind of be together. And it's harder for a newer person to move into that group in a naturally assimilated way when the size of the group gets to a certain point. Yeah. And usually that happens, somewhere around that 30 to 35, and at 40, I have definitely seen where it can get difficult. Now, that doesn't mean that's for every group, right? That doesn't mean every group at 40 but I have seen that number kind of be the golden key. Now, our room size too, obviously, here at Cross Creek, is most of our rooms aren't going to even be able to accommodate 40 really well. And so, part of that is that 25 to 30 is kind of is really a mark when you kind of hit that on a regular basis. I think another way to indicate maybe we're getting close is, hey, have we been working on raising up new leaders within the group, and we see someone who really has a potential to be a real possibility for a new group leader. Why wouldn't we want to give them the opportunity to step out and take a step of faith and see what God does with that obedience? So that's another indicator. If you've got some people saying, hey, I'm ready to step up and take on a greater role of significance and influence. Yeah, it would be another one. I think I think there are natural seasons in a group where a group might be together for a longer period of time, because some groups are going to get to those certain benchmarks quicker than others, and that's not wrong or right. But again, we have found that when a group is together for longer than 3 years, 3.5, it is a more difficult process to multiply another group if that's not happened in that process at some point, because there's a sense of real intimacy, that really kind of morphs in that group, and it becomes a little bit more difficult for that to happen. So I think length can be a key benchmark. Hey, how long have we been together? And and not that a group can't, but many of our groups, they're kind of like a conveyor belt. I think of it like a conveyor belt, and as they're moving along in their stage and they're changing, a natural rhythm too is a stage change, where a group goes from like, hey, we're a life stage 2 group to now we're really, really more like a life stage 3 group. Could this be a great opportunity for us to multiply a group as we're moving to a new stage?
Yeah, I've even, we were talking about this the other day. We're doing the group leader training cohort. We're wrapping up with the last group. And those have been great. Man, if you've never been a part of the cohort, you need to hop in one of those. But we were talking about like how often should groups be multiplying? And someone was like, is there a timeline? And I was like, well, every groups pastor would tell you like every 24 months you should be cranking out a new group.
Right.
And, I've read that in books a lot. And really where I've kind of moved in my philosophy a little bit is just say, hey, why don't you just make it your aim to launch one group, right? If you just will pray, cast vision towards, develop leaders towards, if you would just say, hey, what's that one group? Yeah. Let it launch when it's going to launch. Right? Don't get too caught up in the timeline of 12, 24, 18, Just make it your aim.
Yep.
And give your group something to aim for that's bigger than yourselves, because that's what happens when groups don't multiply, they go inward.
Yeah.
It's all about us.
Perfect case, and I think you're dead on. I think you just have to be talking about it, even though it may be something in the distant future. But I think it's this idea of casting vision for what could it look like if we were to, at some point down the road, multiply another group.
Yeah.
And just as a leader, constantly throwing that opportunity out there and casting a wide net for that occasionally is helpful. Because you're right. I used to be a big advocate. 24 months. If a group doesn't multiply in 24 months, then the likelihood of them doing it is slim to none. And I've pulled back on that too. Just not because I don't think that there is not some group dynamic truth to that.
Yeah.
Right. But I do feel like sometimes we feel like it has to. Hey, regardless if our group is really ready at that or not, we got. Oh, you're saying I have to do it 24. Well, no, don't have to.
Right.
But it's a good gauge, a good barometer to be thinking about. But I would always be saying, hey, are we talking about it on a fairly regular basis?
Right. Yeah, because the 24-month rule doesn't take into account someone who passes away.
Right.
It doesn't take into account group conflict.
Yep.
Doesn't take into account a world crisis like 2020.
Right.
There's all these things that if we hold dead to a 24-month schedule, it puts an extra pressure that really now it's Glenn and I, or whoever the pastor's in charge. It's just their mission, their plan. It's not God's not in this thing.
Right.
We've been trying to go, man, let's make it our aim and let God begin to do the work through the Holy Spirit in a person's life to go, okay, now they're ready. We're moving towards it. We've been waiting for this moment, and here we are.
Yeah.
And to me, those are the best multiplications. The ones that are not forced. They came right out of just it was bathed in prayer and just doing the right things.
Right. Yep.
So when we think about that, launching different groups, what are some of the ways you've seen that are healthy ways to launch groups, to multiply them?
Yeah, it's another great
Do we
question.
split groups, Glenn?
We don't split groups, though it does feel that way at times, right? And I, we laugh about it, but I also know that it's a serious thing, and I don't want to minimize that, because I know it can sometimes really feel that way. So please know our heart. And I know sometimes you say multiplication, but you're really really splitting, and I feel that, and we know that that's really hard. But so I don't want to kind of breeze over that. But I think that is some of the greatest ways that I've seen it happen is kind of like a church plant. There's maybe you've had a leader that you've been developing and cultivating who you're really going, this person's ready. Our group's kind of at that spot where I could see this being a really good, healthy point to have a group launched out, multiplied from us. And I'm always one to say, hey, it starts with maybe 1 or 2 couples, and then you start talking about it and just beginning to pray about it as a group, and then they might start talking to a handful of couples, But it should never be a, hey, this half is going with this group, and we wouldn't want it that way, or this half is going with this
Splitting of the
group.
Red Sea.
Yeah, we would want to hopefully have it go down the line of relationship and calling, right?
Yeah.
And let the Lord work through that. And it may just be 2 couples that go and launch to start that group, or maybe 3 couples that go start to launch that group. And really, I think that's a healthy thing, because they have to trust the Lord that He's going to bring new people. And what
Right.
we have always found in groups is that new people really are much more open to a newer group, because those relationships haven't necessarily been
100%.
completely formed. However, the other side of that can be that it can be hard for a new couple to go into a room that only has 2 or 3 couples in it, because it feels like this is a little awkward feeling, right? But it can be where those couples will peel off a Sunday or 2, and they'll go into maybe the new room they're going to do, and they can pray about it and start it. But then, there comes a point where we know we have that launch Sunday, and then, we launch them out and commission them, and we celebrate it.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's just so much blessing to launching groups. You think about, if you don't launch a group, there's so many things you're missing out on. The opportunity to expand your reach as a group. When you're multiplying, we have a group on campus, The Journey, that, they just multiplied recently. So now they have 2 kids that they have going. And all those groups are successful. And between all of them, they can have up to almost 100 people on roster between all 3 of those groups. But if they just stayed The Journey, then they would just stay at 40, and they would just kind of rested there. And
what's funny is the Journey was actually started out of a group many years ago called Life Changers, and it was a handful of people that felt really called to start a new group, and they gave them the blessing, and they launched them out, and they commissioned them, and those handfuls started the Journey, and then the Journey started, and then they had a handful of people, and they went and started another group, and then that group started. And there's probably, again, from that, just that piece. Life Changers really kind of helped launch several different groups.
Yeah.
So I think, I think, wow, what, where would we be without those things, right?
And that's just one story.
Yeah.
There's several of those.
Yeah, we've got several groups that.
Yeah.
Word with Friends, but they were launched from another group. We can go down real life. Parenthood, right?
Crew.
So Crew, yeah. So and I think that's what people don't always know, is that a lot of our groups have come out of new groups that have launched out of an existing group.
There was something I was reading the other day, and the guy was talking about how over the years of coaching groups, he was like, hey, I used to say multiply, and he's like, I changed my language, because he was like, I don't want to use split, I don't want to use multiply. He said what he would do is, early on, he would talk to the group leaders and say, it's just like spiritual parenting. Mm-hmm. At some point, you got to send them out.
Right.
The kids have got to grow up. They got to learn how to fend for themselves, feed themselves. And so when you're multiplying a group, it's just spiritual parenting. You're releasing them to go. If you hoard it all to yourself, you're not going to accomplish much. And so I just thought that was an interesting way of looking at it, going, we're releasing these people who we've developed so they can go be who God's called them to be.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason we use the word multiply, and this would be important for you as leaders to know, is because when we look at the life of Jesus and we look at his pathway, explore, connect, grow, multiply, obviously we want to do that personally. We want to do that as a church, which is what we're doing with church planting. Now, we don't always necessarily feel the impact of the church planting necessarily right here, because we're not pulling people. Pulling, that's a bad word. People aren't necessarily at this point stepping up and moving and going to a new church from within this at this point. We are planting churches, but one of the other ways we talk about multiplying is through groups. Mm-hmm. And that can be a grow group, that can be a connect group, and I think healthy things multiply.
Right, I agree.
And with spiritual parenting, I love the idea of launching. We're launching a new group through this idea of multiplication.
Yeah. So we've talked about all those and all the things about how to multiply a group, What does it look like to do that? What are the blessings? What are the, if we don't do this, what do we lose out on this?
Right.
But man, if I'm a group leader right now and I'm like, okay, I've caught the vision, I'm there, I'm ready to start moving my group towards multiplication, what would be their first step? I mean, where do they begin?
Yeah. So, obviously you need to start asking the question, do we have, let's go back and talk about size. Let's talk about readiness of the group. Have we been talking about this on a regular basis, like just permeating it and talking about the, how God loves things that multiply, right? And talking about, just the vision of all of that. And then I think, so that would be a part of that readiness. And then thinking about, do we have the leader to do that with, right? Have we been raising up the right kind of leaders to do this? And if we did, who would that be? And identifying them. So I think those would be the markers that, I think they should have in place, and thought, new leadership, and do we have the leadership? And then not only the new leadership to send out, but then we know we're going to have to raise up somebody to come alongside and take that spot from another person, the person that leave, the couples that leave, because that's how it works best too.
Yep.
Because now as someone's moving to start something new, that gives an opportunity of someone maybe who was sitting on the sideline to step in and be a part of something that they weren't a part of.
Yeah. I think even starting as early as you can, finding someone who can be your apprentice, right? Being the person you're discipling, you're training, you're developing. Because I see a lot of group leaders wait till we're right on the heels of like, I got to multiply and I got to find my apprentice and I don't know who it is. And that's what kind of makes it feel rushed.
Right.
But if you start early and go, okay, here's someone I can begin to hand some responsibilities over, test to see if they're ready. And then when you get there, it's just a natural, Jim's already been leading.
Right.
And I'm going to step out as the group leader and I'm going to go launch a group, or, however that works. People are used to that person.
Yeah. That's a good word. I love it. Yep. Earlier the better.
Yes. Talk about it early and often.
Yeah.
And I think just to tack on one more piece here is don't rush through the multiplication process. Leaders don't. I know there's a part of this where you're like, there's going to be the naysayers and there's going to be these people who are going to just be the anxious people all the time. Stop and pull those people aside and listen to them. Mm-hmm. That's one thing I don't think I've done really well sometimes in my leadership. We all want to move fast, and just slowing down and going, hey, let me hear, what is your concern?
Right.
Sometimes the concern is resolved just by listening to the person.
Yep.
And so that's just a final word that I just want to put in there.
I think that's really good. I think that's excellent.
Well, Glenn,
well said.
Thanks for hopping on again. This is a wrap of this. We hit it all.
We did. We hit the really the 5 key things of any Connect group. Grow your group, which is hey, keep bringing in new people. Mm-hmm. Grow your people.
Yep.
Help them move along the pathway. Grow your leadership. And then that last one, number 4, I said 5, but it's really 4. And then grow a new group. So, man, you keep focused on those 4 things, and man, I think great things can happen. Because sometimes we can get so hyper focused on lots of different things, but man, we keep really hyper focused on those 4. We're completing the mission.
Hey, I'm just thinking. I was sleeping around the other night. I was like, you know what? I think this is a book. I think you and I need to work together to talk about the 4 goals of the group.
Yep.
And then we tack on here are the habits that then drive those four goals.
Not a bad idea.
I'm just saying, a little partnership
there
here.
There you go.
You let us know what you think. If we need to do that, we'll do it. If not, maybe it's just a dream that lays in the back of our heads. But anyways,
legends in our own mind.
Glenn, it's been good, man. Thanks for hopping on here.
Yeah, thanks. Anytime.
All right. We'll see you next time.
All right.